Welcome to the Franchise Woman Podcast, where passion and purpose collide, profits are made, and relationships forged. I'm Rebecca Monet, CEO and Chief Scientist at Zoracle Profiles. I'm here with my friend and my co host, community advocate, speaker, author, and entrepreneur, Tracy Kawa. So, Tracy, we're going to be talking to another entrepreneur today, Abby Mishra. Abby is the community founder of the Personal Branding Studio. Abby is a Gen Z girl who's always been drawn to scalable systems and the world of advertising. She got her start in the ad tech world, but found her true calling when she launched her first podcast, Entrepreneur Cast, 2 years ago. Through that show, Abby interviewed everyone from tech entrepreneurs and venture capitalists to government officials like the former CEO of the Women's Forum of Economy and Society. Sorry about that. The goal was simple: to inspire early stage entrepreneurs with success stories, proven systems, and tips to break free from limiting beliefs. So I'm going to have you tell that story, Abby. So welcome to the show.
Thanks a lot, Rebecca. Thanks a lot, Tracy. I'm very honored to be a part of this show. Cannot believe. So, um, thanks a lot, first of all. Shall I start with my intro, or how do we go about it?
Yeah, well, you know what? I think Rebecca gave a really nice, quick intro about you, but I'm always, and Rebecca, I know also, is always fascinated with where people get their entrepreneurial spirit from. And you clearly have one. Let's start there with you. Where did you get this amazing entrepreneurial spirit from?
Well, it's a long story. I'll try to keep it precise. So, I'm an Indian, um, brought up in India, and it was when I was 19 years old. I decided to move to France. My mom has a cosmetic company and a salon, so to me, moving to France was a good decision because France is a leading country in cosmetics and perfumes, and that's what I wanted. So when I came to France, I studied in a business school, and eventually I wanted to land in a company, a perfume-based company, all those big brands that you can think of were the brands I wanted to work with. However, my life always pulled me back in the tech world. It somehow I was not accepted in the perfume world. French was a big hurdle, to be honest, because here it's France. You need to know the language in and out to be able to work in that industry. So I got into the tech world, and even though I detested the idea, when I got into the tech world, I pretty much started liking it. And I was telling you earlier, the tech company I got accepted into was called Perfumist. And even though I still got to remain, get to know more about perfumes, it was still an app. And it was still tech. But eventually I fell in love with the tech industry. And I'll tell you why. It was because of scalability. Tech in the
Mhm,
tech world, you can achieve scale. You can do that in other kind of businesses as well, but tech particularly, you can.
mhm,
And then I moved to another company and I found a really good mentor. And I would like to give a huge shout out to him. His name is Emilia, and he decided to mentor me. So he's the co-founder of an ad tech company, quite known in around the world, actually, including the US. And he decided to mentor me on entrepreneurship because he saw the drive, and we decided to launch the podcast first together. So actually, I got to launch this podcast with the founder of our company. And
Wow.
I started inviting tech people initially. And he actually gave access to his contacts. So he would write to his friends on my behalf, and he would say, I can get these people for you, but closing them is on you. So he would definitely take me to the water, but he would also teach me how to fetch it. So I used to make sure that the people that he's getting, I have conversations with them and I can close them. So I started having these podcasts, but then I got so inspired with all the stories of these entrepreneurs that I couldn't stop but think of launching my own business. And then, as I said, my family already has an entrepreneurial
Mhm.
thing in them. And long story short, I got into the agency space, and to me, the niche that I was most pulled with was franchising. And if you ask why, it's because of scalability again. So, hope I answered your
Yes,
question.
you
Yeah.
did. And it's so interesting because you were already thinking about growth and scalability when you were working and interviewing tech geniuses, right? And then being attracted to and introduced to the world of franchising kind of took that to the next level. So, what is it that you love about scalability and about how franchising does just that?
So the very word scalability is something I love. And I think any entrepreneur, if you ask them, would you like to scale your business? They would say yes. But very few grasp what scalability and how to achieve it. And there are definitely timeless principles to scale your business. To begin with, the fact that the kind of model you choose is the beginning of scalability. If you choose the wrong model, you cannot scale. So the thing I like about scalability is that it keeps the fire of your passion alive. Because if you're running this business and you're not getting the returns, you're not getting enough to support yourself. The idea of business is to grow year by year, quarter by quarter. That's the game of business. And if that's not happening, you lack scalability. So to me, scalability is the backbone of any business, and you have to love the backbone. And franchising, coming back to your question on why franchising is very similar to tech in terms of scalability. And the business model is such that once you, as a brand, you prove the concept that it would work and it would generate money for the franchisee. And if you can sell this idea authentically, you would be able to scale it. Why not? But again, all the franchise founders I interviewed, literally, the best ones, award winning franchise brands, they had the idea about scalability right from the get go. I can name them and tell you. Driver Seat is one of the Canadian brands, franchise brands. And the founder, there are two founders actually, founders and co founder, Luke Paisley and Brian Paisley. They mentioned it that even before starting the company, they were discussing we will choose a niche that can allow us to scale. Otherwise, we're not stepping into it. So right from the start, they thought, okay, what would be a brand or a niche or a service that would allow us to scale our brand? And it was chauffeur services back in time. And they could do so very well.
Interesting. So we've got tech, we've got scalability, we've got franchise. So walk us through where personal branding or branding fit into all of that.
Lovely. And while you're saying, I'm smiling because there are so many
Uh,
concepts here. Personal branding. So um, I was in franchising, providing paid advertising services to franchise brands. I saw that there was a lot of pushback with this particular service. And there's nothing wrong about it. This is business again. Why? Because in the franchising space, you have FSOs, you have consultants, you have other players that are trying to help franchise brands sell their franchise units. So clearly, there is a lot of, let's say, blockers in the mind of emerging franchise brand founders in terms of paid advertising. They don't want to put lots of money. And from my experience, I can tell you, for any emerging brand, minimum ad spend that you have to go with per month is 10K. 10,000, because we that's how paid advertising works. If you really want quality leads coming your way, 10K. So now you can think of an emerging brand with 10 units. Although in the franchising space they have a marketing budget, there still is a lot of, they're hesitant, and the people they work with, they're working with not just agencies but consultants, brokers, FSOs, etc. So the point is that I realized that with this service, if I have to go forward, I have to convince a lot. And at the same time, I went to this event, and literally 90% of the franchise founders were reluctant to go ahead with this, with the idea of paid advertising. And it's because of the existing, they're frustrated. They're not getting the results with the people they've worked with. And at that time, I was A B testing. So, personal branding or paid advertising, two very separate services, but both the services would eventually allow you to get leads. So, I was trying to test it, and I saw that majority of them really wanted to go with personal branding because franchise is a people centric business. So, if you're an emerging brand, you're not McDonald's, you don't have a brand. So, you want to sell the idea of your brand. And if people know you, who you are, your values, they would want to work with you. Hope
True.
I answered it.
It's so true. Um, so give me it's a two-part question, Abby. The difference between telling my story and personal branding, and is there some overlap there? And then the second part of that question is, I understand that franchisors usually do have a story that they can tell. How does the personal branding affect the franchisees? Are we doing personal branding for them too underneath that franchisor's umbrella? So the difference between personal branding and just storytelling, and then how does that work for the franchisee within that franchise system?
That's a great question. I mean, I think of it as a Venn diagram, you know. So storytelling is a part of personal branding, but all of personal branding is not storytelling. Storytelling is certainly a part of it. If I were to sum up what personal branding is, it's everything. It's your reputation, it's your resume, it's the opportunities that are coming your way, to your lap, by the way. Opportunities coming to your lap as against you running after them. Taking charge of your future. You know, if you have a personal brand, it's people think personal branding means joining podcasts, having speaking opportunities, writing books. But at the end of the day, personal brand is being recognized for who you are and taking control of your life and your future. It's it's not an egocentric activity. It's a strategic imperative. It's strategic marketing. To me, personal branding is strategic marketing, and there are four components to it. You know, it's how you look. So storytelling, we'll get back to storytelling, but personal branding is how you look, how you act, what you know, and what you believe. So you see, there are literally your conviction also comes into the picture. A lot of times you can tell your story, but you lack conviction. Or you may tell a story, but you act in a very different way, you know, cognitive dissonance. It's literally who you are. And you cannot invent a personal brand. It's already there. A lot of people say,
Yeah.
a lot of founders have actually said, but I'm not sure if I'd like to have a personal brand. Everybody has a personal brand already. If you're on Twitter, if you're on LinkedIn, if you're online out there, you already have a personal brand. People already have a perception about you. Might as well have control over what perception they have about you by being authentic and telling your story then in an authentic way.
Wow, that was a mouthful. You know, I had this flash of a company that's in our franchise space who will remain unnamed, who has a certain type of product or service that they're offering, and it really could make a difference. But the individual behind it has, my opinion, you're calling it a personal brand, of being unapproachable, being more self-absorbed or narcissistic. And so even though the product and service is an excellent one, many are finding it difficult to work with that individual because of the way they are perceived. And it's enough that it's affecting their business, right, dramatically. So I think we don't even realize consciously sometimes how much the perception of others have of us and how that affects our business. We just think it's the product. We think it's just the service or the food or the this or that. there really is, from what you're describing, a direct correlation to personal branding and success and scalability.
I would tell you something. First of all, 92% of the people trust opinions of strangers more than a company. So the thing is that as business owners, we think having a brand, that is our company, is enough. But you have to associate yourself with that brand. It's like have a human face to that brand. That's, I'm telling you, from 2025 onwards, that's the way to go in marketing. And I don't know if you've observed, but you would see recently Mark Zuckerberg has been showing up in a lot of podcasts. Previously, he was considered to be this geek founder who's, coding. You always, whenever you used to think about Mark Zuckerberg, he was like an introverted person, would not like to show up. But have you seen, like, if you see, at least I have seen it on my feed. He's everywhere. Like he's trying to show up on podcasts. He's trying to, even if there is an update from Meta, he's trying to talk about it. Elon Musk, he has a great personal brand. But let's not even get there. Let's just talk about franchising space. In my episode with, oh my God, Alicia Miller. Sorry, I have so many names.
Abhilasha, yeah,
Alicia
we
Miller.
love her.
Yes, she wrote the book Private Equity in Franchising. And after we got done with the podcast, I asked her, so Alicia, who do you think, in your opinion, which franchise brand owner is doing pretty well? It was a very vague question. Pretty well with what? Pretty well in business, pretty well. It was a vague question, but on purpose. So imagine she answered from the lens of someone who is coming from a private equity background, which is a dream for every franchise brand. And she said, Aaron Harper from Rolling Suds.
Mhm.
And I asked her why. And she said, personal branding is not even a word that she used, but it was the same thing. She said, "Oh, he's doing pretty well with the way he's showing up for himself, the way he's talking about his brand. He's building this trust and credibility, and that's something that you can imagine PE firms also look at. Attracting investment. A lot of founders ask like, why shall I invest? It's a waste of time. I have a million things to do. But even if you are trying to attract investment, as an investor, if I have three people and I look at their profiles and person A has a strong personal brand, they, I'm not, let's just talk about, they have a podcast where they talk about the topic. So they show up on a podcast, they write about the topic they have extensive knowledge about. Wouldn't I feel more connected with this person, be more intrigued to check them out?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I see passion, Tracy. What do you see?
Goodness, yes, for sure. So, a little while ago, Abby, you mentioned cognitive dissonance, which I was actually wondering how your psychology background helps you today.
It helps me every day, literally every day. Whenever I think about, so right now I was talking about, personal branding, etc. And then there was something that came to my mind, which is related to psychology. There was a research done recently, which proved that authenticity has the highest frequency in terms of energy,
Oh,
400 times more than love. Now,
whoa.
attach it to personal branding. Now, this is psychology, by the way, discovering the frequency of different emotions, etc. This research shows that if you're authentic, the frequency of the energy that you're emitting is 400 times more than love. You can imagine how important being authentic is, how you show up for who you are. So, to me, psychology has helped me even think about and be sensitive to who I'm speaking with. Even if it's selling, there is psychology in it. There is a lot of psychology when you're trying to sell a product, trying to understand who you are speaking with, where are they coming from, changing your pitch accordingly. It's marketing is psychology. Like if you want to build your personal brand, psychology you need to know psychology. You need to know if social media is psychology, isn't it? The
They-
algorithms, how are these algorithms changing and updated? Based on what they see as people doing, and what people do is psychology. So if LinkedIn says there was a massive algorithm update on LinkedIn, still is, that videos, if you share your videos, there is a higher chance of you being exposed and having broader reach. And that's why you see a lot of people, they are sharing a lot of videos on LinkedIn. That's psychology too. Why are people more keen on looking at a video as against a text? Or
yeah.
even texts perform well, but to answer your question, psychology is everywhere. Marketing, sales, the way you show up in life, the way you talk, the way you handle things, everywhere literally.
Woohoo! Mic drop there. As a behavioral scientist, I can wholeheartedly agree with that. It is psychology affects every relationship, every decision, every action, every penny we spend. So getting an understanding of human behavior and how people are attracted to things, how they make decisions is important. I do want to backtrack a little bit, Abby, on this frequency of authenticity. It seems some people are getting that, right? And they're in their podcasts, in their writing, in their presentations, whatever, they're coming across as authentic, which creates trust and rapport and genuineness and all of that. But I also see another group of folks who in social media puff themselves up or pretend to be something that they're not, for views, for whatever. Can you address that and why folks would choose not to be authentic? Is it fear? Is it I want to be accepted or I'm not enough? What would cause someone to not want to be fully who they are and be authentic with others?
I think it's, first off, there are many reasons. I think that they have a flawed understanding of what the so-called socially accepted perception of you could get them. So if I think, for example, that um, I can't think of an example right now, but X behavior would fetch me something that I really wanted for a long time, I would do that, even if it's not something I can truly relate to, or if it's not authentic. That's the perception, and so I do it. The thing is that they do not understand that actually, if you're authentic, you attract what you want and you repel what you don't. Deep down, I mean, I think we as humans, we have a more intelligent system. Our body, like our hunch, energy, what we attract, what we repel. And so for people, I think it's okay to be someone who you are not, if that's good. If that's good. So let's say if being consistent is not who I am, so I'm not, it's not who I am, I'm not consistent. But if I show up every day on LinkedIn and write a piece of content, and I'm writing it every day, yes, for the time being, I'm not being authentic, but at the same time, I'm striving to be someone that I want to be in the near future. But most of the times it goes wrong is when it's not gonna improve you, but you just want to do it just to be accepted by the wider audience, and it's a flawed idea.
Yeah.
I don't know if
Build-
it makes sense.
What are your
Building
thoughts,
on
Tracy,
that,
on that?
building on that, I hope you guys don't hear my dogs barking in the background. Building on that, when I first started my business, you know what line was really, really popular? Fake it till you make it.
Make it, yeah.
Right? So let's say somebody's starting out their business, they want to appear successful, but yet they're not yet, but they have the potential to be. How would you address that being authentic versus the fake it till you make it?
Oh, I would love that. I would love to answer that actually, because I've been in that space very recently. Um, but I've had the best mentors ever. And
Mm.
they said, one of my mentors said, never burn bridges. Fake it till you make it can burn bridges.
Mm.
And wow.
I saw that before there was confetti coming down.
I love it.
I
It's
tried to
cute.
ignore it, but I can't ignore the balloons that were
There was
going up.
Yeah, this is like the universe telling you, oh, really? Don't burn the bridges. And when
Yeah.
you fake it till you make it, especially for things like, oh, I already have 10 clients I work with, those kind of lies, you're burning bridges. Sure, somebody can buy into that idea, but then if they get to know, you'll burn bridges. Rather, I think I have accepted that as a newbie in any business, embrace who you are, but there are a million ways to still stand out. And I can tell you, so let's say you have no client and you want one, instead of fake it till you make it theory, why don't you just tell this person honestly that, hey, I don't have a client, but this is my experience. Obviously, now you have to do some background work there. This is what I've been doing, and I see there is a real potential. Would you like to work with me? And then offer them something in return, So you could say, I would help you out. You give me a testimonial instead, so you don't lose anything. Either of those people don't lose anything. Things like that. And it's a matter of a few months. Once you get one, then it stacks. So for
Mhm.
those people who think fake it till you make it would work, I would say rather not. Be authentic. There are a million ways for you to make it, and do not compare your chapter 1 with someone else's chapter 10. I think that's the problem with fake it till you make it. You're
Mhm.
comparing your chapter 1 with someone else's chapter 10, and to cover that gap you're faking it to make it.
yeah.
But consider yourself as chapter 1, and have a client that is okay with having you at chapter 1 and ready to give you a shot.
I think there's three dangers with the fake it till you make it thing. Number one, you're tricking your brain into thinking you're something that you're not yet. And so you're getting dopamine release where you think you've already succeeded. So that's going to cause a lack of discipline and self-control to actually do what's necessary to get there. I think that's one danger, is the brain thinks it's already there and it's
That's
not going to do.
delusional,
What's
right?
that?
That's delusional.
Yeah, it's delusional. It really is. I think the second danger, and you kind of hit on this, Abby, is you miss opportunities for people to help you, to be mentored. When they see this is where I want to go, this is where I am, it's very common for people to step up and try to help you fill that gap by teaching, mentoring, encouraging you to do just that. And then the biggest danger, and you've already talked about this, is if we act as if, or we fake it till we make it, we lack authenticity. We're not being real, and that causes trust issues, which ultimately does the opposite of what we had hoped. When there's trust issues, we can't even identify why we're not trusting this person, but something about them doesn't
Yeah.
feel real. So we're going to hesitate to do business rather than to do just what you said, Abby. I'm new. This is my dream. This is where I'm going. This is where I'm at. How can I help you? Right. And it gets you
100%.
there. So I think
100%. I think I was reading this book, one of the books, and this person, it was a business entrepreneurship, a book about entrepreneurship, and this person said, I worked for free for many people, and a lot of people said, oh, you work for free, how could you? But the point is, you're not working, nothing is free. When you work, you get in return to test your ideas, and you have someone who's willing to give you a platform to test your ideas. So the problem with fake it till you make it is mostly with people who just want everything in a snap, and that's why you fake it. Be okay with literally, and there's this person I really admire and follow. He's an entrepreneur, a very successful entrepreneur, and he said, literally be okay for being so let's say the timeline is a year on an average, and you're not having any results, you're not seeing anything happening, and you're frustrated. That's entrepreneur. For 1 year, this could happen to you. Are you okay with it? If you're not okay with it, you cannot be an entrepreneur. You can't. Just be okay with it.
Beautiful. Beautiful. We could talk about this for hours and hours and hours, but I have a couple other questions before we close out. One of which is, in your life, was there something you had to overcome, an obstacle that taught you something or made you into who you are today?
Let me give it a thought. I think it's one that is the title of my brand, actually, which is we don't chase, we attract. And that's my biggest lesson from 2024 and even years before. We tend to chase in life quite a lot to the things we desire. And the more we chase, the more we repel. So rather, and this is also true in business. So rather, become a personality that is so full of itself that you attract like-minded people in your life. And that holds true in business quite a lot. With this personal branding studio, that's my tagline. We don't chase, we attract. So, personal branding's key is to be authentic in a way that you attract the right people. It's not, I never preach that with this personal branding framework, you will get 100,000 followers. No. With this personal branding framework, you will get the right people to connect with you. You are making friendships. You're not gaining followers. You are creating friendships. And so to me, that's something I've learned.
Nice.
Wow. I want to emphasize that again with the psychology background. I remember seeing this movie, and it was highlighting this energy of authenticity and love and attraction and all of those things. And there was this one scene that it's just in my brain for years and years. And it was a young woman sitting on a bench and a young man who's attracted, right? So he goes over and he sits on the bench and he starts a conversation. And if you look at the energy around them, you can see he was desperate to have her like him, desperate for her to be attracted to him. Everything, you couldn't hear him. You could just see the interaction and you could see her body language as she repelled and removed herself from that. And then the next scene was several minutes later was just the opposite of a situation where you could see the two individuals, neither one of them pushing the agenda or wanting something out of the other or people pleasing or desiring something. It became this beautiful energy of two people coming together. It happens every single day, whether it's in real life or in our social media. People will be attracted to you when you are authentic, I believe is what you are saying. So we don't chase, we don't push, we don't go after in an aggressive way. We attract in many ways.
100%. Because when you chase, you come from a place of lack, and people can sense that. So
They
even if
do.
you're a salesperson and you're desperate and you're running after them, you're showing that you're coming from a place of lack. And does anybody want to buy something that, I mean, if I give you something and I'm not having it, you might doubt me, right? I'm not valuing it, I'm just giving it to you for, I mean, maybe that's not the best example, but you're coming from a place of lack.
Oh my goodness. We're at the bottom of the hour here, Abby. I want to thank you for coming on the show and sharing with us. Final question for you. Is there Is this your motto in life? Is this your theme? Because one of the things you had mentioned earlier was this whole thing about not being limited also. Do those things come together? This don't chase, be authentic. Does that come together with being unlimited?
100%. I mean, to be, if I were to be a bit philosophical, yeah, I mean, first of all, not chasing, attracting, and that being connected to being unlimited. Because when you are not chasing someone, you are not basing your results on someone else, it's on you. So, the beauty of attraction, being attractive, is you work on yourself. And when you work on yourself, your only, let's say, demon is yourself, which you can definitely fight. The control is in your hands, as against when you're chasing, and the control, the remote control, is someone else's hands. So you can work as much as you can on yourself, be unlimited. And there will come a day when people would want to work with you, coming back to business. You work on your, just focus on your grass, and people will come and want to work with you.
Personal branding. Tracy, any final thoughts from you, hon? I'm overwhelmed by this conversation.
Abhilasha, you are very wise. She's very wise, isn't she? Very wise.
I
Such
agree,
young
very
age,
wise.
very wise. Who do you, they say we're a culmination of the people around us. So who do you attribute your wisdom to?
I think my mom and dad, honestly, I really attribute this to anything that I've got to my parents. Um, from a young age, like my dad has exposed me to books, philosophy books. So I've always been very intrigued with depth of life in general. So, and again, that can be seeped in everything in your life, not just personal life.
Nice. Well, shout out to Mr. and
Mom
Mrs.
and dad.
Mishra, mom and dad.
Mom and dad.
You
Go
guys
mom.
did a good job.
You did a good job.
That's great.
For sure.
Yeah.
I
Wow.
would like to say one last thing to anyone actually watching this. It's a story, a quick one. It's about self-promotion. It's considered a dirty word, but if you look at Van Gogh and Picasso, the difference between the two. So Van Gogh only had a small network, mainly his brother, and Picasso, on the other hand, had a huge network. He networked with artists, with politicians, with writers. And the end result was, and nothing against Van Gogh, I will attribute him to something as well later, but when Van Gogh died, he died penniless. And when Picasso died, he took away, like he died with a fortune. All because he made efforts to network and show people who he is. So that's what doing it can bring to you. Again, nothing against Van Gogh. Another thing I will say that he was really good at, Van Gogh, is he didn't require validation from anyone else, and he still worked on his art. So you could take the best from both, and certainly, work on your personal brand, work on yourself, and show people who you are. Like, don't let your talent go away in waste in the dark.
And be authentic.
Well,
And
and
be
that,
authentic.
Travel
that
on that frequency.
oh, be authentic. Yeah, and I think about Picasso's art.
Mhm.
That was very authentic and unusual for
Mhm.
the time. He was fully and completely himself, unapologetically. So it makes a difference. It really makes a difference. Thanks again, Abby. We really, really appreciate this conversation. And to those of you listening in today, make sure to comment, to like, and to share this interview. And of course, we'll see you next week on another episode of the Franchise Woman podcast, where passion and purpose collide, profits are made, and relationships forged.